Hey there YouTube, it's Nick with Feeding Fitness. Today I'm going to give you a low-calorie zucchini cookie recipe with a cheesecake frosting. So let's jump right into it. First, fair warning, if you are one of the crazy people who think that artificial sugars will kill you, you may wish to avoid this recipe. But if you're rational, you might really like this recipe because it makes a very good cookie that is very low in calories. So I'm going to go over the ingredients. We're going to start with our dry ingredients. We're just going to toss these into a bowl. First thing we're going to do, 80 grams of oat flour. How does one make 80 grams of oat flour? You take 80 grams of oats, you grind it in a magic bullet or a blender until it's flour-like consistency. Put that in. Then 90 grams of white flour. Just all-purpose white flour. Oh my God, white flour. These cookies aren't clean. Now this is 2/3 a cup of regular Splenda. Now the box is going to say it's 0 calorie. And if you're using it for like putting in your coffee or whatever, I don't bother tracking it. But if you're going to use this much of it, find an entry on MyFitnessPal that lists Splenda by the cup, and it will have calories associated with it. It's not a lot of calories compared to regular sugar. It's a fraction of the calories, but it's enough that you need to account for it. So look that up. Make sure whenever you're baking with Splenda and you're using, half cups of it instead of single servings, you should account for the calories. This is brown sugar Splenda. It's another Splenda product. It's a mixture of actual brown sugar and Splenda. This is 18 grams of it. This also has calories. You have to account for it. And it's just going to give that brown sugar taste without having quite as many calories as if we just used brown sugar. And then in this cup I have my spices, and I'm just going to have to read it all off here. It's a teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of baking soda, a half teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, and a quarter teaspoon of ginger. And I'm going to put the ingredients in the description for you guys. So, got all of our dry ingredients, and we're just going to stir them up a little bit just so they're kind of mixed, but we're going to mix this really well when we add our wet ingredients, which is the next thing we're going to add. For our wet ingredients, 2 egg whites, a half cup no sugar added applesauce. This also has 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla in it. Final ingredient wouldn't be zucchini cookies without zucchini. This is roughly 200 grams of zucchini. You can use in or around that. I basically used 1 zucchini. I think this one turned out to be 220, but just 1 regular size zucchini with the ends cut off. You're going to grate it with a cheese grater, and then take that grated zucchini, wrap it in a paper towel, and wring it out in your sink so it's you get some of the water out. Make sure you weigh your zucchini before you do that. So I'll show you this up close. All right, so we're just gonna hand mix this until it's all really nice and mixed up. Okay, and then we're just gonna spoon these out into cookies. And depending on the size of the cookies you make, it's gonna determine the macros per cookie, obviously. I'm gonna make about 20 cookies using this much batter. And so this is roughly the size that they'll be here. Okay, so it did make 20, and they're 20 about this size. I'm going to put them in the oven for 13 minutes at 375, and then we'll take them out and let them cool. And while they're cooking, we'll make the frosting. Okay, now for our frosting, we're going to take 85 grams of fat-free cream cheese, 85 grams of fat-free Greek yogurt, and then 1 serving of sugar-free, fat-free jello cheesecake pudding mix, and then Splenda to taste, usually 1.5 tablespoons. And we're just going to mix this all together. And just use a fork and just mix it around really well until the jello mix and the Splenda are mix well within. Now this frosting is actually pretty multi-purpose. If you replace the Jello cheesecake with any other flavor of Jello pudding mix, you essentially have that kind of frosting. So this is pretty versatile. You can use this in many more things than just this recipe here. This is really my go-to low-calorie, high-protein frosting mix. So it's gonna mix up nice. I'm still gonna mix this up a little bit more, but this is kind of the idea. And then we'll use this entire thing to frost the 20 cookies. Okay, and here's the finished product. This is about how big they are. These cookies are roughly 60 calories. I'll put the macronutrients below in the description, but this is of course if you're using the exact same brands that I'm using. Your calories may vary based on the brands you use, but again, that's 20 cookies. So this recipe actually came about, there was a recipe that my fiance found on Pinterest to make cheesecake flavored zucchini cookies, and it was full of butter and sugar and so on. And so I call it Frankensteining a recipe to make it lower calorie. And some of the things you do, you trade butter for applesauce, which we did in this recipe, and you trade sugar for Splenda. Again, if you don't like artificial sugars, please don't comment down below about how they're evil and they're going to kill me. There's no scientific evidence to prove that, and that's not what this video is for. So if you comment that, I'm probably just going to delete it. I'm not even going to bother to argue with you. But that will definitely save you calories. And you can also trade off flour for oat flour. Now, you can't always get rid of all of the regular flour. If you go straight oat flour, everything you make is gonna kind of taste like an oatmeal cookie. So this one, we still kept in, obviously, some of the flour. So those are just some tips that you can take a standard recipe and make it low calorie. Sometimes you can remove up to 50% of the calories. And at 60 calories a cookie, I can have 4 sometimes if I want to. And you don't usually get to have that out of a already frosted cookie. I think the original recipe, they came out to being somewhere around 200 calories a piece. So these are a lot better for your calories if you want to have 2 or 3. So like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. There'll be plenty more recipe videos to come. If you have requests for specific recipes or your favorite food to see if I can make a lower calorie version, I'd love to try. You can say that down in the description below or over at the Facebook page at facebook.com/feedingfitness, and I'll see you next time.